Mm-mm. Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
This week on the Movie Stuff Show, we talk about Fast and Furious in space, Bechdel strikes again, and then we'll review Spider-Man Homecoming. Stay tuned.
Huh. Disney logo.
I wonder why. Why would we do the Disney logo for this?
Might get sued on that one.
Because Disney owns everything.
Everything.
Including us.
Including us.
I mean, soon
I've been
enough.
so friendly towards Disney and their fine it's just, it's a family of products.
Welcome once again to the Movie Stuff Show. My name is Dan. Join me, co-hosts Marty and Abe.
Hey, what's up?
Good evening.
As you can see, we also have a wonderful panel this week. We got up there in the top corner, Amanda. We got Nick.
Yay.
And we got Jamil.
So,
We will not be debating what love is this week.
That's too bad.
or what is moral? What is love and what is moral?
Or
not
what
good.
is
What's
postmodern?
conflict? And conflict.
There's lots of things we'll not be discussing this week. We will be talking about Spider-Man Homecoming. Has nothing to do with love. We've got a couple of stuff topics this week. We'll keep it brief because we got 6 of us, and Marty cut a topic right before the show.
Marty, you jerk.
That was this morning. Hey, that was not right before the show.
Oh.
It's before the show. I mean,
You said right before the show.
right before the show.
I even scored a prop for that topic, so I'm just going to use it now. So,
There you go.
Wow.
An actual cigarette.
an actual cigarette. So
What a
I'll just
rebel.
Do it now.
Jeez. Well, we'll start with topic 1.
Kids, you always look cooler when you're smoking a cigarette, just so you know.
You do.
And if you bum,
shouldn't do it.
off your friends and you don't buy your own, you won't get hooked. Promise you.
Don't know if you guys saw this. The rumor of the next Fast and Furious movie has the crew heading to space, and I feel that is the natural evolution of the series. Jamil?
I don't give a fuck about these movies. Next.
Marty, you've seen all these movies,
I
right?
think myself, Nick, Jamil, have you seen the latest one?
No, because I don't give a fuck
Okay.
about these movies.
Okay, you did make that point. I apologize. Nick and I have seen them all. Yes, I think Abe, you said you've seen a lot of them, right?
I've seen almost all. Yeah, I haven't seen the last one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
I mean, they've gone.
Awesome series.
They've done the taking cars out of airplanes. They've jumped cars from building through buildings. The last one they did a submarine. So yeah, I guess
I would do it. Yeah.
only place to go but up. You know.
There is another place for them to go. They could do Tremors 4 style and have all of the characters play their own grandparents, and they could
Sure.
race old-timey cars. So don't forget that if you don't go to space, you can go back in time.
I'll watch that. I will watch.
That's very Star Trek. Yeah. You can
Another
always go
thing
back.
But Amanda, what if they go into space and then travel back in time?
That's also fine too. I just don't want you to forget that they could all be wearing suspenders and funny hats and trying to
there's a
talk
funny hat.
old timey.
I would
Who
pay
will
so
play-
much. I would pay so much money to see Vin Diesel dressed like that and acting
Who will
like
play
that.
Paul Walker's great grandfather?
Chris Pine.
Yeah, probably. He plays he's on every other movie.
Andy Serkis.
Mocap him. There we go.
There you go. They go into space. They go through the loop. They wind up on the Planet of the Apes. Boom.
I like it.
2 reboots in 1.
Yeah.
Well, who runs the Fast and Furious movies? Which
This is Universal.
Universal, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, they wouldn't pull some of that Sony stuff. They wouldn't have like Men in Black crossover with 21 Jump Street.
No.
They don't have that many
I-
properties that work. I mean, they can throw them into the.
Oh, the monsters, the Universal
Yeah.
monsters.
Frankenstein.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, because that's gonna happen.
They already kind of like they're the transporter in Fast and Furious somehow. So they just took over what the transporter was.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if this was just Tyrese high one day throwing this out there, or this is a real story, but the way this franchise is going, anything is possible at this point. It made $1 billion overseas. I wouldn't be shocked if the next movie just is in China again, or they did one in Tokyo. So I mean,
Tokyo Drift is
I have a
amazing.
mosquito flying around me. I'm sorry if I'm distracted.
They could do one with mosquitoes, probably.
Yeah, I hate mosquitoes.
You could. I like the idea
Unless
of
it's
space.
Mansquito.
I like the idea. This is the Saints Row of movie franchises. Just do whatever the hell you
Yes.
want and just pull
Okay.
pull anything out. It doesn't matter.
Just
they
give them
can.
superpowers at this point. Just have
They
them
have
fly.
superpowers
They
at
got
this
them.
point. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. One take.
You
One
can't
take.
kill Vin Diesel.
No.
You can't. He walks
Can't
through
kill
fire.
him. The Rock can take rubber bullets to the chest from point blank range and just keep walking through them. I mean,
But he breaks his arm at the beginning of 7, conveniently.
but then he can flex out of the cast.
Yeah, that was amazing.
I do have a question though. Is these movies play really well in China? So if introducing sci-fi elements, would that possibly
That could ruin it, yeah.
impact the box office in China? Because we've seen
I'm
that.
so sick of China. I'm so sick.
It's not going away, man.
I know.
It's
Meal is sick of Fast and Furious and China. So we'll get a list going.
We should get a list. Let's see.
I mean, they're gonna run out of F words, so I don't know what they're gonna have.
Fate,
What,
Furious
what did you
Nine.
almost say? What did you almost say there?
The Flight of the Furious.
Oh,
there you
okay,
go.
there you go.
Or Fu Manchu and the Furious. Just fucking take it to China.
Oh my God.
Topic 2.
Topic 2 was going to be. Never mind. I'm not even going to mention it because
About cigarettes.
Marty
it
cut
wasn't that topical. I mean,
it was a good topic.
but it
good
can go for on any day.
But the study was just done. Anyway, topic 2 is actually tied to our main topic. Story on themarysue.com. Are you all familiar with the Mary Sue?
Yeah.
Okay. It was talking about Spider-Man Homecoming failing the. See, I said Bechdel before, but it's Bechdel, right? It's Besh.
We're Americans. We can
Beck
pronounce
or
foreign
Besh?
words however we
I
want.
always heard Bechdel.
Bechdel, right? Bechdel. Okay.
I mean, I learned about this shit last year, but from every time I've heard it since last year, it's been Bechdel.
Bechdel. Fine.
Yeah, we've talked about it a few times.
We have, but the fact that Spider-Man Homecoming failed the Bechdel test, which is weird because the article itself actually points out the fact that the movie has strong female characters,
Yeah.
but because they don't talk to each other at all, really, other than like a random debate question, I guess,
Yeah.
that it fails. And I'm kind of taken aback by that. I know that the Bechdel test doesn't really quote unquote mean anything as it pertains to the if a movie has a strong female presence or not. I get that, but a lot of people do take it as some kind of grading of a film. I just wonder, is it important to pass the Bechdel test or just actually have good female characters?
I don't think anybody gives a shit about the Bechdel test.
Is that true?
I'm being honest.
I think Amanda might.
I'm not sure. I don't think women watch movies just specifically looking for a scene where women talk to women. I think more people would rather just see a good movie and a good story told without all the extra stereotypes than to actually worry about if it passed some fictional test just to see if it's okay for somebody.
Technically, Gravity would fail the Bechdel test, right? Does Sandra Bullock actually talk to another woman in Gravity?
No.
And that would fail.
But I mean, I think it's funny. Not funny, but tragic. But it's like you have these massive cast of movies. Gravity's one thing, but Spider-Man had a huge cast. The Avengers movies have huge cast. All these comic movies have huge casts, and they don't pass these tests. And it's just kind of silly. It's odd that it's so you don't even realize it. Then someone reads the rules, wow, yeah, no two women spoke to each other in that movie, other than me and Nick had talked about this earlier, and the only things we could think of were Thor. And those were just two women talking about Thor, so it doesn't even pass that test.
It fails.
So it's not like you. I don't think you can't say I don't care about it because it is just odd that it's so hard. It's such a minute thing that it's two men characters always talk to each other, and it's not even a thought. But when you read that rule and you look at all these movies, it's like you think back to all these movies, right, two women never speak to each other of any kind of substance, and I think that is kind of important.
Well, that's why I always, every night for sleep, I engage in the Bechdel test and I watch lesbian porn.
I mean, we might as well have the
I don't think those women have real names. Though.
Those what real names? Now you're adding caveats. 2 girls, 1 cup passes
we
the
might as
Bechdel
well...
test. Lesbian porn passes the Bechdel test. Twilight passes the Bechdel test.
Ghostbusters did, and you guys seem to love that one, right?
Amanda?
I don't have.
Hold on, I got
anything.
you.
Okay, thank you.
How about the Consuela test?
You got to take a drink first. Holy cow! Here we go. The wind up.
You can't make a movie by checking boxes.
But this isn't even a box. This is just like something ridiculous, and it's like what?
No. See, Marty, this is the problem. You are right. I'm agreeing with you 100%.
That's usually your problem.
But the problem is not with these movies. Is that we need more female-led movies, basically. Like
it's not even that they need to be female-led, but it's that when they're in ensembles,
even in female-led, I think
they're
Lucy
not
would
treated
fail.
as equals.
Well, think
Lucy
about
would fail that test.
Wait, who failed that test?
Lucy would fail that test.
No,
that's not what we're
Ghost
talking
in the
about.
Shell would fail that test. I'm just saying,
I'm
even
talking
in a
about
female. No, I mean, but even in a
need-
female-led cast.
Just like we need more black creators, we need more female creators because when you have more of those, you won't have to worry about these things. And like I said, you can't make a movie by checking a box. This movie is one of the most diverse movies I ever seen.
Yep.
Like most of besides the 3 leads, almost everybody else is a minority. It's doing everything it can, to be more diverse. And yes, maybe it's a shame that 2 women don't talk to each other. But like, should you force that into a movie that's not even about the women? No, like I'm not saying it in the wrong way. It's not about the women, but it's about Peter Parker and him coming of age with his mentor Tony Stark. It's not about Peter Parker and the women in his life per se.
It is though.
Yeah. It's really not.
It's all about Spider-Man is always about him and the women in his life.
But
whether MJ and Black Cat don't hang out together.
Yeah, exactly.
And maybe MJ and Aunt May might meet each other at some point.
Since our show actually never does pass the Bechdel test, I think we should at least let Amanda,
have some. Amanda, yes. She was just. Look at.
I'm happy to let you guys do the work. No, I mean you guys are all onto something. Is that you don't want to force a movie to pass a relatively arbitrary test, and a movie doesn't become good or bad because it passes this test. This is more of like a curiosity where you sit there at the end of the year and you go, like, hey, how many movies pass this test? And I feel like in my heart, it should be between like 20 and 50% of movies should probably have 2 women who talk to each other for like 1 or 2 sentences. And it's really like it's like 5 movies a year or something really depressing. And it's not any one movie's fault. It's just kind of like in retrospect, hey, that's weird. Make sure you spend like 5 minutes sitting there and going like, is there a reason for this? Like a really easy one that I saw for Spider-Man was like, why was the mathlete coach a guy? If that had been a female teacher, it would have passed. Or like there were 1 or 2 other essentially casting of like extras where they default to white man where they could have picked almost anything else. But this isn't really, I wouldn't want to pick on this movie for that because they do so well. But yeah, it's not supposed to be like passing judgment on the movie. It's just supposed to be like, hey, in general, why don't more movies do this? And is it because are we doing it on purpose or not?
Do you think they're doing it on purpose?
No, I
Or is
don't.
it just insensitivity or not realizing
I think it's
it?
just
It's
not
I
like
said,
checking
it's just,
boxes.
It's just the casting director sitting down there going, oh, like we need I need a nurse. Okay, so I can pick a slightly heavy-set black woman to be the nurse. Okay, I need a science teacher. Find me a white guy with glasses. Okay, like it's people. I feel like it's like the casting just being lazy for everyone who's in the background of everything.
I don't know. I mean,
does that purpose?
Yeah, what Jamil said about checking boxes. I'm not saying this needs to check boxes like, oh, we need to have this character, but it's like this is something that should just be a natural thing. It shouldn't be that hard to think about. You know, I'm sure if you look, if both of these movie makers look back and think, holy, yeah, Jesus Christ, we didn't even do that, and it's not something that they thought to do, but it's just like it's weird that these movies just don't have.
Well, not just
these
women
characters enough to speak. This isn't a hard test. It's really not.
You got to think of it as a wider scale. It's not just women. It's like The Martian could have been, instead of Matt Damon, it could have been a black guy.
But The Martian had a lot of.
No. What I'm saying is, we get us in special interest groups, I guess you want to call us. They put us in certain roles, and that just happens, and it's just something that's natural, and it continues happening, and people don't. You know, it's just one of those things, and it slowly gets better, and maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. There's no need for like a test. It's just like, it's just kind of pointless. It's like, hey, by the way, Spider-Man didn't have two women talking to each other. Okay, I mean,
do you have a better way to draw people's attention to it without like grading movies? Because I think that's all it's supposed to do. But you're right, by calling it a test, people get like kind of antsy about the results.
Right, you know, so maybe if it's just like, you know, you scored an 80 or a 90, but there should be also more things to it. Like, I kind of feel like the extra credit, if you will, is if you have strong female characters in it that do something relevant, then you get, you know, X amount of points for it. There should be something else to it.
We shouldn't even be discussing this. That's
like some people call that the Makamori for the protagonist from Pacific Rim. If the female or minority character has an independent character arc.
Yeah.
Well, Christ, how many times in a summer movie do we get a character arc, period?
Hey, Baywatch had 1.5 character arcs.
Well, you know, and like, it also goes back to what type of movies these are. These are not deep movies. You know, I mean,
it's not a deep test, though. It's two women with names.
I actually agree with Marty a little bit on this one. They could, you know, when the Excel sheet, writers are putting this movie together, they could just throw a formula in to make sure that two women talk to each other. I don't see that that's a big issue.
I remember the controversy about Doctor Strange and how it treated minority characters, saying it doesn't give them enough to do. Well, the movie ain't about them. It's about Doctor Strange. You know, the movie ain't called Wong. The movie ain't called The Ancient One. It ain't called Baron Mordo. It's called Doctor Strange. So because of that, the side characters, whether they be, you know, minority or not, they could be all white characters are going to get a short shrift. Trying to force, and again, you're right, we shouldn't even be having this conversation, but trying to force like these arbitrary rules and these things that they should have, I think it becomes a problem when a movie really does have the issue. Like when a movie really is a problem, then it don't seem as bad because we complain about everything. Like in a minute, you know, Black Panther's about to come out. Everybody's praising that because it's a mostly black cast, right? But what happens if that doesn't pass the Bechdel test?
Right.
It probably won't. And the shame of it is you're going to get the other side of it, that it's too black, like they did with Luke Cage. They're going to be like, oh, this is too black. Oh, this is a fucking movie in Africa. So now there's going to be a Whitedale test. And there's no two white people speaking alone in this movie other than Andy Serkis and Frodo or fucking Bilbo. That's going to be the only scene with two white people just talking to each other. Somebody's going to be like, oh, this is wrong. This is racist. This is reverse racism. It's like we look for these things and it keeps happening. And we just can't, like, consciously just keep picking them out instead of just getting to the root of the problem and just fixing them instead of, I don't know.
Well, I think that's what the point is. The point is to get to the root of the problem. But by just having this basic test, I think you are showing that, A, there are not enough female directors, definitely not enough female writers. So you have these writers' room full of guys who don't even know how to write a normal conversation between two women.
Oh, but we knew that without the test.
So, but I think this shines a light. That's why, you know, you bring up a topic like this, you bring up a test like this. It you know, jolts the conversation somehow.
We're having this same argument like it's the Bagay where they just cut the black people in general. You see, that's more of a movie we should be talking about, not no fucking stupid ass like superhero flick. Like it's not gonna check all these boxes. You know what I'm saying? But it's not that big of a deal. And like instead of focusing on what it does wrong, this movie Spider-Man does do a lot right. But you have a movie like the Bagay, which is about the fucking antebellum old South, and they cut the only two black characters out of it completely. And it's made by a white female director and written by a white female director. We should be talking about that and what does that mean instead of fucking Spider-Man not passing the fucking Bechdel test. Because that's an actual issue of representation in movies.
Yeah, that's 100% right.
Do you think that that's part of the issue too, as well, is that all the different interest groups kind of are complaining about one thing, and it's losing sight of the big picture of the fact is that 99% of the movies are just made by old white dudes or rich white guys. I mean, that's the ultimate issue. But then each of the different groups that have their stake in it are complaining about one thing without seeing the big picture. Like you make this point, Jamil, is I didn't see a story about Beguiled on the Mary Sue. Right? I didn't.
Exactly.
That site isn't about that. That site isn't about that.
And that's my point. But
it should
point,
be because
it should be because the interest is still the same thing. Ultimately, at the end of the day, diversity and getting the people that have been making these same movies and the people that have been running Hollywood and the people that have been making these movies, getting them out of that majority of power and dividing up the pie a little bit more equally is ultimately the end game. And so you have these interest groups that are fighting for their one little stake, but ultimately nothing's going to change because they're almost becoming against each other as opposed to combining to fight the real issue.
That's what happens.
And that's why I'm saying, instead of complaining about this movie, the real answer is just to have more diversity for the creators. Because, like, again, if a movie is made by a bunch of white people, more than likely it's going to have a bunch of white people in it. And that's not a racist thing. That's not nothing like that. That's just how that works.
I mean, that's how Tyler Perry works.
Exactly.
Movies all, like...
There's one white person in a Tyler Perry movie, he's always racist. But we say nothing about that.
Or because it's Silverstone or some shit.
What do you say?
Or it's Alicia Silverstone or some shit.
Or it's Alicia, yeah, exactly. But yeah, that's the bigger problem. It's not about this movie. Like I said, there's big movies. Like I said,
I mean, putting Alicia Silverstone in your movie is a big problem.
It goes back to when they was doing the Oscars so white thing, and I would always argue it's not to have different movies recognized, it's that we should be getting different roles. Like I always hark back onto The Martian. There's no need for that to have been a white dude. It could have been a woman. It could have been a guy. That entire movie doesn't play on it having to be a white dude. But instead, it's like...
But it plays on trying to... It's selling a movie, and you sell a movie with Matt Damon.
And isn't Matt Damon Asian? He was in that movie, the Chinese wall.
He's on the wall. Right?
Well, again, that's another stupid argument because people jump down that movie throat. That movie was paid for by China.
You're right.
And they paid for and produced and directed, and the strongest character in there is a Chinese woman.
Oh, I know. I loved her. And it was also like super, super intense propaganda. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I was ready to move to China and sign up.
And the trailer drops, and it's like, fuck Matt Damon.
In due time, I think we won't have to worry about that. I think China's just gonna kind of take over. All right, I think we spent a lot of time on that. We have 6 people, and we got like 35 minutes to talk about Spider-Man: Homecoming.
See, this is why we cut the smoking thing.
None.
You're welcome.
No.
Good call, Marty. Good call.
Thank you, Jimmy.
I disagree. Whenever Marty makes edits to my script, I disagree. It's so.
We had Jamil and Abe almost agreeing with me in that segment, though. But then tearing it down, but still agreeing with some of the point.
Well, I mean, we just got to bring Jack on the show, and then
I'm sorry.
I got something to do that night.
Spider-Man: Homecoming. It's hard to say that this is, but it's true. It's the third Well, third
attempt.
third attempt, not a third attempt. It's actually the fourth attempt, I believe, but it's the third actual successful attempt at the Spider-Man film franchise. You got to remember that James Cameron originally was going to do a Spider-Man film in the late '80s, early '90s, but that kind of went to crap because of Superman 4 and Masters of the Universe. So, a little bit of history there for you. So this is actually the third attempt in recent history within the last 15 years, right?
Yeah, 2002, I think, was Spider-Man.
Right.
2001?
2001, yeah. It's within the last 15 or 16 years or something like that. We've had 3 different franchises. We've seen 3 different Spider-Man actors, right? And
Spider-Man gets a lot of hell for that, but since Keaton, how many Batmans have we seen?
No. I totally agree, but
it's crazy. No,
I
just find it crazy how people are so like short.
Yeah, but I think the problem is it's reboots, right? So even though you had the different Batman, it was still like that originally series was what 4 movies? It was the same series, 4 movies, and then you had the Dark Knight trilogy, and now you got this Ben Affleck whatever, right? So I mean, it's the same like amount of more Batman, but it was still a good chunk of time dedicated to this one thing. Where it just seems in a short period of time, you had Sam Raimi's trilogy, you had the 2 Garfield ones that was a failed trilogy because it never actually made it to the third one, and now you got this new Spider-Man in a very short period of time. You're talking about Batman. The original Batman came out in 88, 89, right? So I mean that's a almost 30 years, right?
Yeah, I got an extra 10 years.
So I think I would honestly say that if you're looking at bankable or most known superhero characters, Spider-Man's I'd say number 1 for Marvel, and then probably
number 3,
top 2 or 3, right? Is Batman, Superman, Spider-Man. I mean,
I'll put him
it's
at
Batman than Spider-Man, and it's only Batman because Batman been around longer. If you look at it, Batman, Spider-Man is
Superman.
Before we get into a nerd fight over about the comic book, why don't we go around and just give our initial thoughts about the movie? Let's start with Abe.
Hey, Marty, how about you let me finish my introduction?
Well, the introduction kind of went out that way.
I thought there were 3 hosts.
I thought last week you told us we can step in.
I have a written introduction.
Well, okay, I'll sit.
No, go ahead, Marty. Go ahead. No. Go ahead. Take over.
Let Jameel and Nick fight about Batman and Spider-Man.
You gotta let the show go organically. How it's gonna go.
Yeah, no, seriously, like it's not like I've been doing this for the last 4 years and don't know what I'm doing.
Oh, shots fired.
It's fine. No, it's cool. Go ahead, Marty. Go ahead.
No.
All you. Yep.
You guys like the movie? Weird. You guys like the movie?
Yeah, no. So Marty, let's go around the room. Marty, you start first.
I enjoyed the movie. Next.
The wedding's gonna be weird.
Is that it?
Yeah, I enjoyed the movie.
You enjoyed the movie.
I enjoyed it. It was good.
Okay, we'll start in my corner then we can go to your corner, right? Amanda, please.
And
the awkwardness.
And the awkwardness, and you come to me. I found this super watchable. Like most Marvel movies, I feel like if I think about it for a week or 2, I'm going to start noticing problems. So I'm going to choose consciously to not think about it very much. And I think that what I did really like about this version of Spider-Man is that they were pulling elements from the Ultimate Universe that I really liked. And I think that they were able to pick and choose some slightly different aspects to Spider-Man to make it a little different. So, next.
Next would be Nick.
I loved it. They finally got him right. This is the first time that Spider-Man's not a 30-year-old guy. He's actually a high school kid, and he comes off as a high school kid. It felt like a high school movie that just happened to be about Spider-Man.
So technically, Spider-Teen, Spider-Boy. He's not really Spider-Man.
Hey, man, he might be Jewish, and he might have got bar mitzvah.
Well, the kid is in his 20s, right? The actual actor?
21.
Yeah.
Yes, because a lot of people checked.
Yeah.
All right,
Who are those people, Amanda?
my side is done, Marty. Except for me, I haven't talked yet about what I thought.
No,
So
you're on that side.
Go to your side.
Your side isn't complete.
I really like the movie.
Thank
the
you,
movie
Jamil.
was really good. I really enjoyed it. It's my second favorite Spider-Man movie. No, excuse me. It's my third favorite Spider-Man movie, but it's probably the second best Spider-Man movie. Go ahead, you two. Go ahead. There we go.
Third favorite, but second best.
Yes.
Okay, we'll
What's
come
the
back
first?
to that
What's
one.
the first? I mean, what's the first? Come on.
Well, Spider-Man 2.
Okay, I can get behind that.
Abe, we know you love these comic book movies.
Actually, I didn't have a problem with this one.
Yeah,
I kind of found it
This one was
enjoyable.
hard.
You know,
this is hard to really hate.
Thank the gods that they didn't have stupid Spider-Man as a kid saving the fucking world like they have in every other goddamn superhero movie. He's Spider-Man. He's got pussy villains, and this was a pussy villain. This was a pussy problem. Spider-Man handled it. That's it.
Wow.
Spider-Man doesn't save the world. Spider-Man swings around New York, and he's like, "Yeah."
They made a point of that too.
Yeah,
Like
right.
Tony Stark makes a point of that too. It's like, you know,
so
it's like
happy about that.
the Avengers aren't going to get involved in this.
No,
it's like
no.
literally New York got destroyed by aliens. We get involved in that.
Yeah.
Like a guy,
Yeah. Spider-Man does. He goes after shoplifters. Come on.
he gets churros.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So I was really happy about that. Yeah, and I thought the movie was enjoyable based on that. They just lowered the stakes enough to make it actually interesting. There was not the destruction porn that we had to sit through for 30 minutes about. Although I will say, and I'm all for diversity, the Irish got fucked again by removing the redhead. Those Irish, man, they just can't catch a break.
It's funny you bring up destruction. I think Marvel it keeps kind of focusing on the destruction that these superheroes do.
Yeah.
That's how we start the movie.
Oh,
with
the
Keaton.
construction. Yeah.
Well, that's the first time in the whole universe since the Avengers that they actually go to New York and go, "Hey, by the way, we fucked this place up 8 years ago." Like, the first time. I found that to be amazing. You know what I find funny, though? Like, ever since the whole controversy with how Superman destroys the city, you notice all the superhero movies are pushing the final battle to an empty place?
Yep.
Like, they're doing it, like, I don't know, like, this one is in Coney Island. BVS was in some, like, empty city.
Right.
Wonder Woman was just, like, in a hangar somewhere. Like, they keep pushing it away from the city.
Well, do you remember
So-
Captain America Civil War, anyone? They tried to claim there was like, what, 60 fatalities in New York in the Avengers when the little text on the screen. It was just something ridiculous like that.
Yeah, huge buildings get sideswiped
Right.
by alien ships, but no one, everyone got
Just
out.
one person died. It was a heart attack. So it's
heart
okay.
attack going down the stairs. He had a heart attack.
I think one of the great points, though, to what Nick was saying too, is that Michael Keaton, who I thought was fantastic. I thought he was great. He sold this movie for me. Was when he makes the point is like, so they wreck the city, and then they get paid to clean it up. Like I thought that was a really
It's very OCP.
kind of
It's
nice,
very OCP,
you know?
man. It's
Right.
OCP, yeah.
It's a great little, you know. I mean, it missed the mark a little bit because the reason that they're cleaning it up is because it's alien technology, and they don't want it getting into people's hands to create weapons. So I understand that, but it was a nice, you know, point that he made there. Is, you know, it's like great. So they get paid to clean up the mess that they created.
I thought they missed the chance to make him a fully kind of sympathetic character, though, because he goes from Michael Keaton, construction worker that we've seen in every movie he's ever done. So one thing goes wrong, and he's all right. I'm going into crime.
Well, it's not just one thing, though. It's a major thing.
It's a major thing.
Yes,
Yes, but he goes right into arms deal.
Yeah, but
Like-
he lost a lot of
It was
money.
within 8 years, though. I mean,
Yeah,
honestly, I mean,
That was 8 years later that they've been running this thing for 8 years.
On some smaller scale.
yeah, on
Well,
just
as
smaller
Batman
scale.
taught us, it just takes one bad day, right? Just one bad
I
day.
guess.
Yeah.
That's true.
Good point. I mean, I don't know.
But then,
I
like,
get the
they kept
impression-
focusing on him, you know, I'm doing this for my family, I'm doing this for my family. They never really show him with the family, and then when they do,
Well,
I know they
there's-
couldn't because
there's
of the big
a
reveal.
reason.
But then even that one scene, he comes off in that scene as a kind of an absentee dad and, you know, never around, husband. It's like, oh yeah, he's always gone. It's like, and it's, I think you couldn't focus too much on it because of the reveal. I understand that, but one or two more scenes about him, you know, really caring about his family or being a good guy that got beaten down.
I think he was sympathetic
Might have.
enough. No, he shouldn't. Any more sympathetic, I think it would have been bad.
He lets you know the whole movie that everything he does is for his family.
He convinced me at the end when he was talking to Peter at the end. He convinced me like, yeah, I think Peter should join him. Fuck the Avengers. Like he really convinced me. Because when he said, you know, you sell weapons, like how the hell you think the stars make their fortune? Selling weapons. Like it was like, you know, like yeah, you're right. You have to clean it up because it's alien technology. But why does it have to be Stark? It just start getting richer out some shit he created. Like yeah, he's right. He's absolutely right. And like I got to sell to a couple of bad guys so I can make some money after they bankrupted me.
And that's what I'm saying. They bankrupted him. It's not like one thing. It's like, yo, I'm broke now.
Man, how'd you like Michael Keaton?
Oh, he was great.
Yeah.
I like. I mean, you guys are going back and forth on whether he was too evil or too sympathetic. I think they struck a good balance of him being maybe like, you know, a realistic asshole who was maybe not a great guy, and then, I mean, not to agree with Abe or to remind anybody about that thing from last summer, but you know, all it takes is like
I knew you'd catch
like
that.
a world. Yeah, I know what it's from. A world-class bad day to take just like an average bad guy, bad person, and turn him into a villain. I like that.
Yeah.
Like I'm okay.
Synergy.
Oh.
We all feel that way, Amanda.
I'm going to ask my side of the question now. What did you guys think of the suit? Because I wasn't thrilled with the idea of Spider-Man being like Iron Man-esque. When they went full on, you know, training wheels off mode.
That's when I was really starting to worry. Yeah.
He's talking to Jennifer Connelly, which was a fun casting, but still. It's almost a little too much like he's not really a superhero anymore. He's just a guy in a suit. And if you put anybody in that suit, they can do something with it. As opposed to being Spider-Man, who had the Spidey sense, who, you know, was just powerful on his own. But now he's just kind of like an Iron Man clone in that suit. I know it fits into some of the comic book, you know, stories that have been told, but I didn't love it.
It just makes sense for the universe that Marvel created. It would make sense. Like, he introduces him in Civil War. He's going to give him a suit.
We should give Cap a suit. He should give...
yeah, like everyone
Cap doesn't need
one. No, but he should give everybody a suit. Yeah, just one.
But
once you go down that road...
He did give Cap a suit. Oh, time out. He does give Cap a suit. He designs all the suits, actually. Yeah. So he does give Cap a suit.
No,
hey,
not Black Panthers.
Or Black Panther or Thor or...
Yeah. Black Panther doesn't need him. Black Panther's smarter than him.
Yeah, you see that trailer? They live in the Jetsons world.
I just noticed that we took diversity to another level. We have a female Spider-Man on the show.
But he does design everybody's suit. And if you heard Happy Hogan, he was designing a new shield. I thought they was enemies, but apparently he designed him a new shield and Thor a new belt for some reason. I was okay with it because especially he needed a new suit. Did you not see the shit he was flying around before he had that new suit?
But Spider-Man always has that shitty suit to begin with, but then he kind of comes out with he figures it out.
But this thing, you've seen those suits in those other movies, and it's not a problem. I'm not saying it's a problem, right? Ain't knowing the fuck anybody made those suits in those other movies. Ain't nobody made those by handmade in those other movies. But that's fine. That's not a complaint. But I'm glad
that's every superhero movie.
Can't we accept that a teenage boy can make a cool suit if he can develop a web shooter that, like, you know, with technology far beyond any other chemist has ever made?
He's supposed to be really smart.
Does he have to be a seamstress also?
Yeah.
I
if you really start nitpicking about how did Spider-Man make a suit, comic book movies all start to just dissolve away.
Yeah.
They all start to fall apart.
How does Deadpool make a suit?
Yeah. How does Superman cut his hair?
There's a monster.
His eyes.
Yeah.
like I said, I know it makes sense for this world, but it bothered me. It's like I don't need him to have that many functions and that many, you know. It added comedy with some of the kill mode stuff and, you know, shit like that. But it's I don't know.
I get what you're saying, but if you really pay attention, he didn't really use that stuff as much as it goes to show that he's still just being Spider-Man, because all that stuff he didn't use as much as you were worried about. Like, it doesn't come off like he's just abusing the suit.
I thought the point was that it was sort of like Tony was slightly imposing his vision of Spider-Man onto him. Yep. And he was trying to live up to that and doing like a pretty shitty job. And then the suit gets taken away from him because he can't be Spider-Man the way that Tony wants him to be. And then he has to be Spider-Man the way that Peter Parker is. So I thought that it was, it was worked into the plot. It wasn't just, hey, this is the new spider suit. Right. And I agree. I like saying, oh, hey, Tony Stark can make all of the inexplicable shit we need in this world. And I'm a little bit happier with that than, believing that he made that in his garage or something. Or not his garage, because he lives in New York City. In his crawl space. I don't know.
Tobey Maguire was like 50 when he did Spider-Man, right? So he probably had a lot of years of practicing seamstressy to make that suit. Right?
Him and Andrew Garfield was like 27 years old. I think that's another good thing about this movie.
Yeah,
is that it's not a 30-year-old. Is that it's not a 30-year-old man as Spider-Man?
Isn't Emma Stone my age, and she was Gwen Stacy in those?
Yes.
That's so weird.
Yeah. Even though I did like Garfield, I'm not gonna lie. I liked him as Spider-Man.
Not so much as Peter Parker. Yeah. I will say my biggest complaint with this movie, and it's intentional, is the fact that the action is not really that good. Like, even in the bad Spider-Man movies, the action is really dynamic, but they kept it closer to the ground. Like, there's really no sweeping camera movements while he's web slinging or any of that. Like, there's no big villain hero fight. I kind of miss that a little bit. I kind of want like a Vulture Spider-Man fight through the city.
Well, they did it through that small town at the one point, and that felt a little too CGI. Some of his stuff seemed a little too CGI.
You know what? I'm gonna tell you something. CG ain't came a whole lot in 15 years since the first Spider-Man movie, because some of that shit still look just as bad as it did back in the Maguire movie.
Dude, watch when Blu-ray came out. I watched the Maguire movie. That's the last time I ever watched it again. It looks so bad when it got taken into HD and you can see the CG.
I think that's part of the problem too. Is the screens that we're seeing it on,
it's too high def.
Everything's just too good. So if you watched the original Spider-Man on this whatever screen, the Dolby Cinema one that we watched it on. It would look like utter shit. Like, honestly, yeah. So that's the point right there. I don't know. I enjoyed the fight scenes. The after the homecoming dance where he's fighting as a Shocker, right, and then the with the school bus. That was fun. I thought it was a fun scene. I like what happened to the original Shocker. That
a complete accident. Gets
incinerated.
I'm not sure if that was actually an accident. That was an odd scene. I wasn't sure, because he said he was going to kill him, basically, and then he was shocked that he did. That was weird to me. He's like, "No, I can't trust you out there," so he goes to shoot him, seemingly to kill him, but then he's shocked.
Maybe they just make him anti-gravity to float to the ceiling, and then he can't go anywhere. Then he can't leave.
Whatever.
I don't know, but I thought that was funny because that's to the point of who they replace it with. Was
Woodbine.
Who's amazing. Who's amazing. I love it. Him in Fargo season 2.
I just love seeing him. He looks like what Dave Chappelle looks like now that he got all, he's like twins.
Just smooth all over like not follicle. Like, it's really weird. Hey, but it's funny. Dan said he loves him for Fargo. I've loved Bokeem Woodbine since Jason Lyric. Like, that's my dude. Clockers, yeah. But yeah,
I Black Man for a while.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, I really do like this movie. I just wish it was a little. Like I said, they said they did it on purpose. They said they decided to keep it in Queens, and I think no building this Queens is over like 8-9 stories. So there's no chance for him sweeping through Manhattan or anything like that. It was all right.
What's funny that you mentioned that? It's actually super clever that when he was in the suburbs, he didn't have nothing to swing off of.
Exactly. Yes.
And they acknowledged that. And in other movies, they would just magically put a tower there.
Even in DC, when he was in DC, he literally just had to jump on a truck. He didn't really.
They made the conscious little decisions to make you know that this guy isn't fully Spider-Man yet. And I think that's why there wasn't that much. It was more so a movie about Spider-Man understanding that he's Peter Parker
I actually read that there was a subtle joke in the Spider-Man comics from the writers that anytime you see Spider-Man swinging and there's nothing there, they assume there was a helicopter around. So that's why they throw in the helicopter scene in DC where he swings around that thing to go into the monument. Which I enjoyed that scene too. That was a good.
Oh, that was a good scene.
That was his Spider-Man Save the Day scene.
Yeah.
That we technically caused the issue.
Start the problem and then solve the problem. Yeah.
I like.
There's a lot of that in this movie. Though he causes a lot of problems.
Causes a lot of problems, but he causes a lot of problems. Marty retweeted this. He causes a lot of problems that seem to like nothing happens, right? And it's just like 5 minutes later, it's like, oh, it's fine. The girl, he almost kills the girl. Nah, she's fine. They're gonna go to homecoming. Yeah. Yeah,
there was no consequence to him. They kind of destroyed that guy's, sandwich shop, whatever. That they did a nice job setting up, and then he explodes it, and he doesn't seem, too affected by it.
But he did stop fighting to go check on them immediately. He let the robbers get away because he wanted to save the guy from the collapse.
And the cat.
Yeah, so they did. That was like a slight opportunity to see his character.
I get why they went this route because the last 5 Spider-Man movies, he's been kind of brooding. And, Spider-Man is mostly happy despite the tragic backstory. Spider-Man is kind of a joyful character. And, just to separate yourself more from those movies. Like, this whole movie mandate was be as completely different from those other movies as you possibly can. And I think that's one way they did it is with the tone of making it more friendlier.
I understand that, of course, you didn't want to do another origin story, and that would have got panned if they did it. So I understand why they couldn't do that, but they take a lot of liberties and not really I don't think Uncle Ben's name was mentioned in this movie.
But do you have?
And he's like he's supposedly the guiding force of Spider-Man's life, and now he's been replaced with Iron Man. And
not really. No, he's not replaced.
Everything he's doing is to please Tony Stark.
There's a mentor relationship.
Yeah. It used to be, with great power comes great responsibility. Now it's, I just want to be an Avenger.
Well, again, that has roots to. He can be those things too. He can still feel bad about Uncle Ben, but still look up to Tony Stark. Tony Stark is like what the coolest nerd ever.
I thought it was odd in a Spider-Man movie to not have any influence.
Here's the thing. In the previous movies, you had to deal with it that way because they weren't allowed to use other comic characters. This guy just comes off of a movie where he's fighting alongside Captain America, Iron Man, War Machine, all these other characters. He's going to look up to them. Like, the mention of Uncle Ben is almost unnecessary at this point. Plus, they're going on the whole, they clearly have to set up this Avengers connection. So, it makes sense.
Plus, he already was in an Avengers movie, essentially.
Right,
yeah. How many times you got to see the pearls get robbed?
And just to get nerdy for a second, when the comic was introduced back in the 60s, all those heroes started at once. So he was a 15-year-old kid, but he started at the same time as Iron Man and all the rest of them. In this universe, he comes in 8 years later as a 15-year-old kid. So, admiring the last 8 years of seeing superheroes.
And I think there is an Easter egg that they mentioned that in Iron Man 2.
Yeah, he was
the kid.
Which is
they're saying they might do that. It works though.
No, they admitted that's true. Yeah. But that's the kind of thing I feel like if Star Wars had admitted it, Abe would be pissed off. But
wait, what? They admitted what about it?
That Spider-Man was in Iron Man 2.
He was that annoying kid in Iron Man 2?
No, he was a kid who faced down one of the robots, and Iron Man comes in and saves his life or something. And so
you're right. That is a very Lucas move. There's like 5 people in the whole fucking universe. Yeah, that's a very Lucas move.
But you know what though? They admitted that there's just a fun retcon thing. It's not mentioned in any of the movies. Yeah. They even said we literally just made this up 5 minutes ago because
it works. Because it works. It works timeline wise and everything. And I honestly,
and it was in Queens.
But it would also play up to the fact that he is so admiring of Tony Stark and how he wants to be. So when Tony Stark comes up to him and asks him to be a hero, he's floored by it and he wants to be an Avenger and all that. So I don't care about that. Besides, Iron Man 2 is a great film.
It's like Amanda said. It's a lot of the Ultimate Universe popping up in this movie. And if you know about the Ultimate Universe, you'll see why they're going kind of that direction.
Speaking of that, Amanda, how did you like the kind of like the world building and the setup for the future films and possibly like the Sinister Six with some of the characters that they introduced in here as potential villains?
I've been trying to not predict where they're going to go with stuff. Yeah, I haven't really been looking forward. I don't know. I guess like everybody, I picked up on the drop that Miles might live in this universe, and so got in a little fight with my husband over how quickly and if they would have the balls to kill this Spider-Man.
No,
probably not.
Yeah,
maybe 2 Spider-Man though.
Well, I mean,
Marvel finally got their baby.
I worry that they're getting a little ambitious with the world building, and it's still kind of murky as to who controls Spider-Man. Like, is this going to make so much money that Sony's like, all right, we don't want to really listen to Marvel anymore? I love all the world building in the Spider-Man world. I love all the high school stuff. I love the villains being still the low key kind of street crime villains.
But I mean, they set up a Scorpion. They set up Shocker. They set up quite a few, potential villains. And I felt that it wasn't like in your face, like overly Marvel, like, or even DC. How DC kind of threw it at you in BVS of here's our world right here. Here's what we're building. I felt that it was a little bit more low key and kind of part of the story.
Yeah, like I said, I love that aspect of it, but I'm still not sure where that then fits in the whole Infinity War world. And
no, it doesn't have to. It exists on its own.
No, but he's still going to be in those movies, ideally.
Well, it's going to be like, hey, kid, I need you to come with me. But essentially, in what I'm understanding, the Homecoming is its own little thing, and it's in the universe. It exists like the Netflix shows exist. That's why I would really love to see.
But that's putting Spider-Man on a pretty low level. When he's
doesn't really because Tony Stark is all through this movie. That's a little more than Netflix level when you pick Tony Stark.
No, I mean, like when you're talking about like his existence in this universe, they can paint smaller stories because you can exist in just New York. That's what like kind of like there's some major shit going on in Daredevil with the hand and all this other stuff, but they kind of just leave it to that one little corner. Like all the Netflix stuff just happens in New York. So what I would like to see them do is actually kind of connect those two universes, because now that you have Daredevil and Spider-Man literally like a train ride across from each other, and Spider-Man's one of his main villains is Vincent D'Onofrio's character Kingpin from Daredevil. Just put those together in some way, do it clever, and they could keep going forever. Because
then you're talking about a Sony, Netflix, Marvel TV deal.
No, that's Marvel Studios.
But it's Marvel, but you're still talking. You're still talking like Sony. And I think they have to. They have to swallow a lot of pride here.
Yeah, they have to.
But they're not. They're trying to make a Venom movie and the Black Cat Silver Sable movie, and nobody knows who the fuck those characters are.
But they admitted that those are in their own universe. They're not in the same universe.
I still think it's kind of murky still. Mm-hmm. I think Sony still has a lot of control of Spider-Man, so it's hard to trust these guys when the first
make a Venom movie without Spider-Man.
Yeah, like how do you do that? It just doesn't work. So,
but it's Tom Hardy, so
like I said, I love what they're setting up, but I think a lot of the things that people are kind of theorizing and talking about is very ambitious for when what we've seen Sony's been prone to do with some of these movies. They've ruined this franchise twice now.
No, they didn't ruin it twice.
Yes, they ruined their franchise twice.
Spider-Man 2 is considered one of the greatest comic books.
But then they ruined it with Spider-Man 3.
Yeah, right.
But that was the dud. And I don't actually think the Garfield movie, like 2 was but they weren't that bad.
Those movies made shit money though. And they had to stop again. They had a whole plan of they were doing a Sinister Six. They had all this shit planned, but then everyone hated it, so they had to stop again. So there's no way you can tell me that you can guarantee that they're not going to fuck this up again. So, but like I said, this movie is great.
What did I say about the amazing movies earlier? Like, what? It's a bad movie held up by a good cast.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like, there's so much good in there. I don't know.
Yeah, except critical reviews, box office, the
Yeah,
things
Jamie
that
Foxx.
yeah.
Which is what
Oh,
they
that
have now.
soundtrack! That fucking soundtrack for
Soundtrack.
Spider-Man, the second Amazing Spider-Man. Whew.
Yeah.
That was embarrassing.
Well, I
But
love
now they
Jamie
got-
Foxx's electro
The
music.
Riddler.
Whew.
Yeah.
Because that's who he was, right? He was just he was just Jim Carrey's Riddler, right?
Right.
Okay, good. That's the sense I got from that.
But with like electricity.
But with electricity, yeah, and black, those two things.
Yeah, I don't see that.
You don't see? Okay, yeah.
he was blue, so he was also Dr. Manhattan.
Oh, okay. Good point. Good point. Yeah. But yeah, these I think they set a good road work. I just hope someone don't fuck this up and try to take them away after the third movie.
Like I said, it's not like they have a lifetime deal now with Marvel. I think it's still kind of.
But they have enough of a
I think
deal.
it was a 3. I think it might have been a 3-movie deal, and he's already done 2, and he's doing Infinity.
No. I think it's the separate movies, and then the Avengers stuff is a separate deal. It's not I don't think it counts against.
No, but I think they rent them for the Avengers movies, but they still control the Homecoming movies, and they have that deal. The way I read it, whereas Sony makes all the money off box office, and Marvel took in, they get the merchandising deal.
Well, if we get
you scared Jamil away, so you're losing your panel. I've got 3 and you got 2 now.
Oh
right.
boy.
Well, if we get 3 good Homecoming movies, that's just a win for them. I mean, we don't need more than 3 movies of one character.
Want to do some last
I don't
thoughts
need
here?
to see Iron Man 5.
Hopefully Jamil gets back. Abe, final thoughts on the...
Yeah, it was all right. What? I mean, it's Spider-Man. Come on, guys.
Yeah, like I said,
it wasn't as
fun.
bad as I thought it was going to be. I thought Jamil was right. The action was a little bland, but it was part of the setting.
Yeah, I think the Spider-Man stuff was great. Thought the high school stuff, they did so many subtle things that worked.
Okay. You did Mary Jane. They need to kind of. They need to kind of.
They did. There was a lot of trolling.
Well, they need to make her a little more friendly. I think down the road.
She's not Mary Jane. She's just MJ.
Oh, come on.
They came out and said it today. I think they said she's not Mary Jane.
The whole thing's going to shit. I don't have a separate screen set up, so.
Oh.
That's it.
Everybody's Jamil.
I'm not recropping this for 3 minutes.
Amanda's Marty. I'm Jamil.
Yeah.
I'm kind of Dan. Kind of.
Switch over. There you go.
Amanda gets a float.
Amanda, final thoughts.
I don't know if Aunt May was wearing stylish clothes or just the clothes she was wearing back in the 70s because I'm old and fashion's weird. Was she trendy or frumpy? I don't know. It can
Marissa Tomei is good looking. Don't get me wrong, but the idea that she's like everyone in this neighborhood is in love with her somehow was kind of an odd. And she had no other real.
You'd be surprised at the type of people who get free coffee at Starbucks sometimes.
Yeah,
I've gotten free coffee in the last 5 years.
Amanda, I love that you can be in both frames. You can be in the Marty frame.
Oh, that's my shoulder. I'm also Marty for a little bit.
I get to be Jamil and in Dan's basement.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry to everyone here.
It's amazing.
I mean the 10 people watching, I'm guessing.
Nick,
6 or 5 now.
Final thoughts.
Oh, wait.
You might be coming back.
Final thought. I loved it. I love the high school aspect. I love that we finally get to see a superhero movie where the secret identity is almost more important than the actual hero. Because that's a big part of Spider-Man. Out of all the characters that I've ever watched movies about, no character is that tied into the secret identity as much as Spider-Man is tied into Peter Parker. And it was great to finally see that. Plus, I like that the high school looked like an actual high school in Queens with kids that aren't all, Marty.
I think we're all happy that people in movies don't look like Marty. Yeah.
I would not got into that school.
I just want to say secret identity still don't mean shit in this universe. Like 20 people know who Spider-Man is at the end of this movie.
Right.
Well, a whole train knew who Tobey Maguire was.
Yeah, Spider-Man was always the one that kind of the people around him figured it out pretty easy, quickly.
Well, I mean, Batman. Come on, every single Batman, early Batman
but
movie,
even
there's like 4 people in it that figured out. Yeah, it's like, it's Batman.
Iron Man was looking for him at the end to announce who he was. I think that was the idea, right?
I guess so. Yeah. Jamil, final thoughts.
It was a good movie. This is a good start to this universe. I feel like while I feel like the original Spider-Man movies is more classic Spider-Man, I do feel like this is the first time we see a really good teenage Spider-Man, and I appreciate that.
I'm going to echo Amanda's probably original statement that she said about this is, I mean, I thought this was really fun, and I'm kind of afraid to rewatch it because I don't want to. I don't want it to start falling apart if I continue to rewatch it. So I'm gonna leave it as it is. It's a fun movie. I really enjoyed it. I left it saying it's like, wow, this is a fun time watching a superhero film. If I had to throw it in a rank against, at the end of this year of memorable, I still think it's going to fall behind Logan, and it's going to fall behind Wonder Woman in regards to memorableness. But still, it's a fun time, and just I like Spider-Man. Spider-Man's a great character, and I didn't like the last 3 films that Spider-Man. I didn't last 4 films because I didn't really like Civil War either. So the last 4 films that Spider-Man was in, I didn't really like. So it's been a while to see Spider-Man in a good light. So I enjoy it, but I'm afraid to rewatch it. So we'll see. So with that, we'll close out another episode of the Movies and Stuff show. Glad that Jamil was able to bounce back in, and I don't know if you saw what happened, Jamil, but it was getting kind of weird. Amanda was in like 2 frames at once. Nick was split in half.
It was like the Phantom Zone.
Just opened up. Yeah. Please make sure to like this video, comment below, subscribe to us here on YouTube. You can also follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and on Twitter at Movies and Stuff Show. Our 3 guests this week again were Amanda, Nick, and Jamil. So thanks again for joining us. Always, always a fun time when you all are joining us. So
Say thank you.
It's okay.
Oh,
I'll just stop.
It's been a show filled of awkwardness, so we'll end on an awkward note as well. We'll be back next Tuesday live 9 p.m. Eastern to discuss the new Planet of the Apes movie. Later, everyone. Bye.